The iPhone XR is here at T-Mobile, and there's a whole lot to love. Like taking those perfect New Year, New You portrait mode selfies you're going to share.
Nice.
It's the best way to stay connected to everyone you'll heart most in 2019. So get ready to fall in love with iPhone XR on T-Mobile, the most loved in wireless. Call 1-800-T-Mobile to learn more or visit a store today.
Fantasmic Journey Podcast is brought to you by Tascam and Amazon Studios. For more than 30 years, Tascam has developed products for every segment of the sound and music industry. From the high-end audio professional in a major post-production studio to the novice of hobbyist at home, Tascam is everywhere. They are a company committed to providing their customers audio and video solutions that enable breakthroughs by using sound in ways that are exciting as they are accessible, even recording the voices of the dead. You asked for a non-scripted paranormal TV show. You begged for a non-staged paranormal TV show. You begged and you pleaded, and we have listened. We present to you Season 1 of The Paranormal Journey into the Unknown. It was released October 31st, 2017. In this series, we show you what it's like behind the scenes and conducting a real paranormal investigation. Join Gavin Kelly, Paula Purcell, and their special guests to seek out the existence of life after death by going to numerous haunted locations such as jails, hospitals, battlefields, and museums, collecting compelling evidence by means of video, photography, and EVPs. In this season, the crew investigates the St. Albans Sanatorium, Old South Pittsburgh Hospital, Jailhouse Pizza, and the famed Monroe House. And you can watch Season 1 of The Paranormal Journey into the Unknown on Amazon.com right now. Season 2 and 3 will be coming soon. Your journey begins now. As you call the path and both the known and unknown, what do we understand? What answers are we trying to achieve? Are there answers? Tonight, we gather to find more verity. Join us as we take the journey into the unknown. This is the Fantastic Journey Podcast with your hosts, Gavin Kelly and Paula Purcell. Well, welcome to the Fantastic Journey Podcast, everyone. I'm Gavin Kelly, and sitting right next to me is my lovely wife, Paula Purcell. How are you today, Paula?
I'm doing pretty decent.
Okay. Let's say that again with some more pizzazz and some more life.
I'm doing pretty decent.
Wow. Oh, my goodness. Come on now. We have an awesome special guest tonight, so let's liven it up a little.
Okay.
All right. What kind of news, crazy news you got for us?
Well, I've kind of got a little bit of out of every perspective of different things.
Okie dokie.
Without trying to get into the political view of crap that is covering the news.
Nope, we don't need anything political. This is a non-political show.
I do have one that, that has kind of stood out of headlines this week. It's a crime that has happened. It's about two nuns that were accused of embezzling $500,000 from a Catholic school.
Okay.
Some of the money they may have been used for gambling in Las Vegas, so we have two gambling nuns from a Catholic school.
Where do you get your crazy freaking stories from? We got gambling nuns now. This is awesome.
Two Roman Catholic nuns have admitted to embezzling $500,000 from a parochial school in Torrance, California. They are believed to have spent some of the money on travel and casino gambling.
Okay.
It is with much sadness that I am informing families of St. James School that an internal investigation has revealed that over a period of years...
Oh, wow. They've been doing this for years.
Sister Mary Margaret and Sister Lena Chang have been involved in a personal use of a substantial amount of school funds.
Come on, Blackjack! Oh.
St. Mary Margaret has been the principal of the school for 28 years.
Oh, Jesus.
It has been retired since June. Sister Lena was an 8th grade teacher for 20 years at the K-8 school and has also retired this past year.
Oh, my God. You got to be kidding me. I can just picture these two. I wonder, are they wearing their nuns' outfit? Because that would be really cool. You walk into a casino and you see two nuns. Come on, Lucky 17!
Kind of reminds me of Sister Act.
I was about to say Whoopi Goldberg, but I decided to keep my mouth shut.
Well, I'm just saying because, you had towards the end of the first one, or the first one or the second one, where all the nuns had to go inside the casino to find her. Remember that scene?
Nope.
Oh, God, that was hilarious.
I played the fifth.
Oh, God. Well, anyway, that was that was interesting. And then I have another story.
Okay.
How many of you are Jack Sparrow fans out there?
I see lots and lots and lots of hands go up. Do you?
Oh, well, you like Jack Sparrow. I like Jack Sparrow.
Of course.
Well, there is a Jack Sparrow impersonator who claims to have divorced a 300-year-old ghost pirate.
Yeah.
This is the story I was trying to tell you earlier that I had finally found it.
Oh, dear God.
It says,
too much rum for that guy.
Till death. No, this is a woman. She portrays as Jack Sparrow. She does the...
So she dresses up as Jack Sparrow.
Yeah, but she's married to a 300-year-old ghost pirate.
All righty.
Till death do us part has a different meaning for Amanda Sparrow Teague.
Oh, Jesus.
An Irish woman who says she married a 300-year-old pirate ghost apparently got spooked and has left the marriage.
Wait, she married a ghost and then got spooked? Okay.
Apparently got spooked and have left the marriage. So I feel it's time to let everyone know that my marriage is over. I will explain all in due course, but for now, all I want to say is I'll be very careful when dabbling in spirituality. It's not something to mess with. Tag, who has worked as Jack Sparrow's impersonator, says she got married to a Haitian pirate from the 1700s who was executed for thievery, according to the Irish Mirror. The ceremony apparently took place on a boat in international waters and was carried on by a shaman priest.
I wonder what he was wearing.
Facts checks. Okay. Investigating the partnership and determining it was not is in fact a legal marriage. Growing up in Ireland, in my area, you were taught that if a man bedded you, he had to wed you.
Okay, hold on, wait a minute. So you're saying this 1700s pirate ghost bedded this person? How much rum was she drinking?
I knew from my research that spiritual marriage was a thing, so it was more me than wanted to get married than him. He would have been happy like most men and just had sex. Teague's apparition affair began on happier note in 2014 when she said she suddenly felt the spiritual energy with her in bed. Mm-hmm. She told the Daily Star the spirit sat with her while she watched TV and drove her car.
Oh, so now the person is driving her car. I would love to see the video on that. Hey, Mom, there's nobody driving that car.
And that she starts developing strong, loving feelings towards him. It's worth noting that the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise, the character of Edward Teague, played by guitarist Keith Richards in Dead Man Tells No Tales, is the father of the character Jack Sparrow, whose full name would be Jack Teague. Mm-hmm. It was unable to verify the existence of a person so named when it was looked in January.
Oh my God.
Oh yeah, that was something else, and yeah. So
okay, that's we'll have to get Porter's idea on this one. Yeah, this is gonna be interesting.
I gotta find my other one. Hold on.
You should have.
Here it is. No, I have it under files, and I have to pull it up. Mm-hmm. It's working on it. Okay, here we go. Here is on this day in history. I have to do one every time. Okay. On this day in 1980, American oil tycoon Armand Hammer paid $5,126,000 at an auction for a notebook containing writings from a legendary artist. Who do you think it was?
Ernest Hemingway.
Leonardo da Vinci.
Oh.
Yeah, the manuscript written around 1508 was one of the some 30 similar books Da Vinci produced during his lifetime on a variety of subjects. It contains 72 loose pages featuring some 300 notes and detailed drawings, all related to the common theme of water and how it moved. Experts have said that Da Vinci drew on it to paint the background of his masterwork, the Mona Lisa.
Okay.
The text, written in brown ink and chalk, reads from right to left. An example of Da Vinci's favorite mirror writing technique. The painter Gousses discovered the notebook in 1890 in a chest of papers belonging to Porto, a 16th century Malay sculptor who had studied Leonardo's work. In 1717, Thomas Coke, the first Earl of Leicester, bought the manuscript and installed it among his impressive collections of art at his family estate in England. And Christie's ended up having it in 1980. They were able to, somehow or another, they got his trunks, and in the trunks they found all the stuff back in 1980, and it was at the big auction house in New York, Christie's.
Okay. That's interesting.
Sold, and he said that was just a small bidding. A lot of his stuff went from 7 to 20 million.
Jesus.
So
that's chunk change.
to some. But yeah, that was interesting, and yeah, and so forth and so on. But yeah, he's the one that always wrote backwards. He wrote from right to left instead of left to right.
I'm not even sure how you can do that.
He believed in the mirror image technique. He'd always write his cryptid information backwards while looking in the mirror. So basically, you get the reflective look of you actually being able to read what it says if you had a mirror to do the reflective.
Wow.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's just talent or just weirdness.
That's just called he was very bright. He was one of our smartest people in the past, along with Benjamin Franklin and all those others great.
Oh yeah,
people.
Benjamin Franklin. Yeah, he's a winner. Let's go fly a kite with a key on it.
Hey, we got electricity, don't we?
Yeah. All right. Well, joining us tonight on the Phantasmic Journey podcast in the summer of 17. Good, I'm stuck on the 1700 now.
Well, you're just making Porter old.
I know, right? 1975. A hard-headed, determined, the analytical little boy was born to a deeply religious family in Gallatin, Tennessee. Molded by a strict missionary Baptist mother and father who made certain that he would use his brain to make a living and not his back. This member of the team spent 8 years of his life dedicated to a higher education prior to entering the corporate world. He experienced an unexplainable event that occurred one morning as he woke up to the smell of breakfast filling his boyhood home. He walked down the hall and he noticed his mother wearing an unfamiliar pink robe while preparing breakfast at the stove. After a quick splash of water on his face in the hallway bathroom, he started back to the kitchen and quickly noticed that the smell of breakfast had vanished from the air and his mother was nowhere to be found. Once he thoroughly searched the house, he picked up the phone and called his dad, only to discover that both his mother and father have left the house much earlier that morning without ever preparing breakfast. He now studies other strange occurrences like this and looks to the historical record and Bible for answers. He now hopes to help others that have had paranormal experiences by finding evidence that will substantiate what they have experienced, be it natural or supernatural. He brings an extremely analytical mind to the team and quite often plays the devil advocate when studying evidence. His biggest fear is the altercation with a physically violent apparition or an entity that desires to do harm to him or others. We are talking about the one and only Scott Porter from the Tennessee Race Chasers. As Porter told me earlier today, that this introduction doesn't even cover a tenth of his life. But you know what? We've got plenty of time to get to that. Let's go ahead and get him on the phone here.
Hello.
Hey, Porter. This is Gavin Kelly and Paula Purcell, the Phantasmic Journey podcast. How are you doing this evening?
Doing great. How are you guys doing?
We're doing pretty good. I just got done reading your entire intro, and yes, I made a special note and said that this does not cover a tenth of his life.
Oh my gosh! You know what that says? That says I'm old.
Oh, don't feel bad. Don't feel bad. He kept putting you was born in the 1700s and not this time period.
That's great. I love it.
She was doing a story about this one woman that is like infatuated with.
She married a 300-year-old pirate.
There you go. Yeah.
Oh my gosh! I've been following that story. You know they're divorced now.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. But I had the
It
17.
didn't work out.
I had
know?
the 1700s.
He was never around.
Right? And that's how I got the 1700s stuck in my head, because she's talking about that, and I'm like, yeah, the summer of 1700. Oh, whoops.
You know, I mean, there have been people who have accused me of being supernatural myself. So, you know, I'll take it. You know, either way, I'll take it.
Oh, man. I can't believe that story. That I would just love to be the kid in the car next to them, because they're stating that she lets him drive.
You know, I don't know that I'd want to be anywhere near that car.
You got this little kid going, Mom, there's nobody in that car.
She's full of it. She bought an auto-driving Tesla.
Aha! There you go.
That's what it is. She got an autopilot Tesla. She's in the passenger seat, and she thinks the pirate's driving. That's all there is to it.
Oh, yeah, but
Either that or she's in a Google Maps car.
Could be. I said basically she had a few too much rum.
Well, this could be it too. She's heavy on the rum.
Oh my God! And the other thing that she was saying, something about that he had to bed her or something like that.
Yeah, well, the Irish tradition is if you bed a lady, you had to marry her.
I'm just curious how that even worked.
You know, I mean, you know, we've all heard of the succubus and the incubus.
Oh yeah.
So, you know, so maybe this pirate has some type of magical wand, and
I'm sorry,
is
but it kind of
able
reminds
to-
me of that one movie.
What movie?
What was it? They made several of them. The funny ha-ha ones were used. The scary movie or whatever it's called, where they were in that haunted place.
Yeah. Scary movie where the one ghost went after what was her name? The girl from 90210.
Tori Spelling.
Oh,
Yeah.
Tori Spelling, yeah.
Oh God.
I can't remember what he said. Oh my gosh, there were so many fun things that were said in that stuff.
Oh, well, let's see. She goes, "Why aren't you talking to me? You gave me crabs." Oh, yeah, that was awesome. Yeah, those movies are
That is
crazy.
Cool. Oh, good movie.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
Oh, man. So, what have you been up to since Haunted Live? Because that last episode was truly amazing.
Oh my gosh! You know, the last episode was very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there was so much that went on there, even that didn't get showed to the public. I mean, that was, you know, some of it was on the static cams.
Mm-hmm.
But I think one of the big things that we didn't really get to address on the show was the voice that came over the walkie while I was in the cabin, and the guys were trying to get a hold of me, and I was trying to radio back to them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that female voice that I heard it as a female whisper. That's how it came across the walkie in the cabin, and it said, "Everything's still okay," or everything is still okay.
Huh.
And on the show, when I came back and watched the show, it was extremely loud and very clear. So it was really weird how that happened. I don't think that I didn't recognize the voice as anyone on the crew, and it was very odd that the walkie wouldn't work when we were trying to utilize it, because we were on the correct channel and everything was turned on. But right before that, I had said something about, or a little bit before that, I'd said something about there being something buried up there to keep the witch away. And so it was almost as if whatever this voice was, it came in and was saying, okay, you know, whatever it is, it's still there, it's still doing its job, and everything is still okay.
Huh.
So it was very interesting how that went down. But another interesting fact is when I left from there, I had to go to an event with my friend Stephanie Burke, and so she happened to be in town and was on set. Well, she got sick that night with a stomach bug.
Oh.
I was sick with some kind of head cold.
Oh, wow.
And we've rode together, flew together, worked 2 events together, and neither one of us ever caught whatever the other person had, and no one else around us caught what we had. Huh. It was very weird. It was almost like, and I'm not saying this illness came from, quote unquote, the witch.
Right.
I'm just saying it was a weird scenario, weird situation, and considering that we had to fly on planes together and all that, that neither one of us caught what the other one had.
Huh.
So very, very, very strange situation. But since then, it's been running around and doing events and trying to, just keep going and getting ready for Christmas now.
Oh yeah, I know. Just right around the corner. I would always.
Oh my gosh.
I would sit there and start counting down the days, and Paula would look at me going, "Shut up."
Yeah, considering
it's this year has flown by, and it's happened up on me way too quickly.
Oh yeah, it's true. I mean, it has been going by fast. I started looking at it today, and I'm going, the year is almost over. Wow.
It is, and I was sitting there thinking, just this past weekend, we were up. I did the Firehouse Museum Paracon up in Michigan,
right? And
I was sitting there thinking, I was like, wow, this is my last event of the year. I don't have any more events this year. And I was like, man, this is just going by way too quick. So
yeah.
I still can't get over how quickly it's going by.
Oh, I know. Tell me about it. Let's see. Austin was up there with you, wasn't he? Austin Maynard?
Yeah. Austin was up there. Austin's a great guy, man. He took care of me and took care of us. He was awesome to hang out with and get to visit with and finally get to meet him in person. So I was so glad of that.
Yeah, he's I think he's running that big event that's going to be at St. John's or something like that.
St. Joseph.
St. John's.
Oh,
yeah.
St. John's. Oh.
Yeah. I'm not sure where it's at. I'm thinking it's in Ohio, I believe.
Yeah, I think so.
Are you in that one?
What the name of it is now?
Are you in that one as well?
No, I won't be up. No, I won't be up there for that one.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, I won't be up there for that one. But yeah, he's got a big event going up there. But I know that he and I were talking up there, so you never know what might be coming down the pipe later on.
Oh yeah, most definitely. Well, we'll be getting into you telling everybody all the events that you're going to be at for next year, because I think you're going to OSPH, aren't you?
No, I won't be down there either.
Oh wow!
So I've got a few things on the schedule that I can talk about.
Yeah.
That we've already we've got going on. The big one that we've got going on is my Wicked Waters cruise, and that's in May. So May 10th through 17th, we're going to be sailing down to Bermuda.
Ooh.
And we've got an investigation over a shipwreck scheduled. So we've got I think we've got like 10 cabins left for that cruise.
Oh, wow.
And so, if somebody's looking for an awesome Christmas present and a bucket list type investigation, that's what this is. Yeah, we're all going to meet up in Boston.
Uh-huh.
And so the night before, we're going to go on a lantern tour of the Freedom Trail, and we're going to get those behind the scenes stories that don't typically get told.
Oh wow!
And I think we're going to end up at like the oldest bar in America, and then you got to go there.
Oh yeah.
But it won't be a late night. It's going to be a fair, if some people want to do it, they can, but I'm going to try to get some rest because we got to be up the next morning to get on the ship, and then we're going to sail to Bermuda. We're going to be doing some lectures and all kinds of fun stuff on the ship, and then we're going to go down there. We're going to investigate over the shipwreck. We've got some other excursions we've got planned, and then this is a 7-day trip, so we've got a bunch of stuff to plan to do. Plus, you've got a lot of free time built in for people to explore Bermuda.
Yeah.
And then on the way back, Tim Weisberg is he's going to be doing a UFO watch on the upper deck, and then of course she's going to be doing some readings and stuff on the ship as well. So it's going to be a really, really cool trip. I can't wait to go on that one.
I'm sitting here I'm scratching my head at the same time, but how are you going to investigate a shipwreck aboard a cruise ship?
Well, we won't be aboard the cruise ship when we investigate the shipwreck. We will be aboard a smaller vessel, and we will be parked over top of the shipwreck, which will be lit up underwater.
Oh, okay, I got you. So kind of like a glass bottom
Yeah.
boat.
Oh, kind of like that, yeah. And the thing is that, you know, it's you can't take everybody out there and scuba dive, and you know, because not everybody is scuba certified. And of course, when you get into night dives, you know, you got a whole nother complication. So, you know, a lot of people don't get to do stuff like that. I've never investigated a shipwreck. So this should be a lot of fun. We're going to see what we can do and see what we can get. You know, you never know what can happen. People are always saying that, you know, that oh, you can't do this because of this, or you can't do this because of this, or because this physics, or this science, or this biology, or this chemistry. And I'm like, you know, we're dealing with the supernatural, and
True.
That's just it. They're supernatural. They are beyond their rules and laws of physics, science, mathematics, chemistry, and biology.
Right.
So you never know what's going to happen out there.
And here's the other thing. We were talking about this last week. Bermuda. Things disappear. They never come back, but yet we have cruise ships going through the Bermuda Triangle all the time.
All the time.
Yeah.
All the time. Ships, I mean, I was just in the Bermuda Triangle, or in the edge of it, just this past summer, and I'm still here talking to you. Hold on, let me make sure. Yeah, I'm here. I'm touching myself. Okay, I'm here. I can feel that I am solid. My arm, I'm good. Yeah, I'm here. All right, so, you know, I was just there on the edge of the Bermuda Triangle and made it back. And, you know, there's planes that fly through it all the time. There's ships that go through it. So it's one of those things like, why did we have this era
Exactly.
of so much disappearance there?
Yeah.
And we don't have it that much anymore.
I know.
Did E.T. finally go home?
I don't know. I've actually started looking into that, and I'm just like, I don't understand this. You have all these warplanes, all these battleships, but when you look underwater, they're not there.
Right. Well, you know, and many of them, they went off radar in that area, and maybe they were below radar when they disappeared, but they kept going a little bit further. Or maybe it's because of the underwater currents.
Yeah.
You know, those maybe they did hit the water. Maybe those currents carried those wreckages farther away, or and off into a different area.
That's
and
true.
in some areas out there is very deep, so you know it's probably one of those situations the ocean is a vast place to look, you know, and if we were if we were able to find everything out there, there would be a lot of very wealthy people from a lot of wrecked ships at this point.
Oh yeah, the ocean is like space.
Just like space. It's vast, and there's so much that's yet to be discovered.
Yeah.
But you know, that's just one. That's one of my big trips we got planned. I guess I jumped way ahead, but I've got some big trips planned this year. January, the weekend of here in just a few weeks, actually. January, the weekend of the 19th. Steph Burke and I will be headed over to Hawaii to be part of an investigation over there, and she's doing some readings, and we're going to explore some of the ancient history and culture of Hawaii with our friend Lopaka, and that's going to be an amazing trip.
Are you going to Oahu or the Big Island?
Going to Oahu, and we will be there. We'll be there in Honolulu, and we'll be with the Mysteries of Hawaii crew. Let me make sure I'm telling you that right. Mysteries of Honolulu. So that's going to be a lot of fun. So we're going to be over there doing an investigation with them. A couple nights. We've got a few things going on. I don't have the full schedule locked down yet, but you know, it's kind of one of those late in the year things to schedule. But if anybody's ever thought about going to Hawaii and experiencing the culture and the history and some of that intense supernatural energy that's over there, this would be an amazing time to go. I mean, I can't even tell you what all's going to go on. It's just going to be awesome. I know we've got 2 nights of stuff going on there on the weekend for people to attend and hang out with us, and I know that Steph's going to be doing some readings, so that should be a lot of fun on the island there.
Yeah, I've been. I am from California, so we're only 5 hours from Hawaii, and
Okay.
we've been there 6 times.
Yeah.
And the best place for you to go, there's 2 places actually. Go to the island of Kauai. And
I've been there and love it.
Did you do the research on the Menehunis?
Yes, we did do some of the research on the Menehunis. I tell you what's awesome though. I mean, what was funny is I felt so welcomed. Like I felt like it could be home. And I always have made jokes that if I'd have had my son with me, I probably wouldn't have left.
Right.
I just fell in love with the island. I mean, it was just really, really awesome. Of course, I mean, I've got some indigenous blood, not Hawaiian blood, but Native American blood.
Right.
So I don't know if that had something to do with my connection there, but it was just a very, very spiritual connection to the islands. I've always been drawn there, and so actually being there and getting to experience it was an amazing event for me. And I'm dying to go back. But yeah, Kauai was a beautiful place, and so I'm really looking forward to getting back. So what was the other one you were going to say?
The Big Island of Hawaii, Saddleback Road.
Yeah.
Saddleback Road.
Ooh.
You know about that?
Yeah. I've heard some of the tales and stories, but yeah, there's so much there though. I mean, that's just the thing is that you could spend. I was the last time I was there in Kauai. I was there for 9 days. And it wasn't enough, it just wasn't enough to explore and to dig into the history and the culture and just get to fall in love with all of it. I mean, I was, I liked how Kauai is kind of not as populated as some of the more touristy areas, but the entire island chain, I just love it over there. It's cool. I can't wait to go back. So it's gonna be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I did something crazy when I was in Kauai. The Menehune Fish Pond and the Menehune Cave. And the cave is actually in the hillside, and there's water in there. Well, I took a bodyboard and laid on it and went in there with a flashlight.
Did you really?
Yes, I did. There's some crazy writings in there, and it's not just graffiti. It's weird writing.
Is it ancient stuff?
Yeah. And then I swore there were little eyes looking at me while I was in there.
Oh, I'm sure there were some little eyes looking at you while you were in there.
But I got all...
You're traveling into some ancient area that, that they probably wasn't too comfortable with you being around.
No. But I got in there, and I was like almost, I guess, halfway, or maybe I thought I was halfway, and the flashlight started flickering. I'm like, uh-oh.
Yeah, well, that's one thing that I mean, of course, I've done spelunking in the past and a lot of stuff in caves, and one of the big things that you have to make sure you always have, and that is plenty of flashlights, plenty of backup battery sources, and also some other sources of light, like glow sticks that you can use in case of an emergency.
Right.
So always pack extra anytime that you are subterranean, that's for sure.
Oh, yeah. So I wound up paddling back out, and I got out, and I'm just like, oh, wow. It was crazy. But I've heard about these Saddleback, the Marchers of the Night. If you kneel down, make sure that you look at their feet. Do not look at them. If you do, you're gone.
Yep, that's my understanding. And, when we were there, we investigated that, and we actually have some footage where we were shooting into the jungle, okay? So this was some dense jungle. This stuff, there was, I don't know that there was, I don't know how far back in there you had to go to get to another civilized area, but I know it was pretty dense jungle. And as we were filming into the jungle, you could see the flames going through the jungle.
Yep.
And I can't say that it was natural, and I can't say it was supernatural, but all I can say is that it was a very unique experience for it to be happening at the same time that we were there investigating the night marchers.
Yeah, let's see, that was during the time of Ghost Asylum, and I think you guys were at that abandoned hotel. What was it the Cocoa something, Cocoa Palms or something?
Cocoa Palms, yep, the Cocoa Palms where Elvis stayed.
Yeah.
And that was cool. That was a really neat place. I hear it's been redone now. So I would love to get back and take a look at it, but maybe someday.
Yeah. All right. Well, I mean, I love Hawaii, but we could talk about Hawaii for hours.
You know, I can talk about Hawaii all the time. Yeah, absolutely. You know what? I'll be in your neck of the woods on February 23rd.
You're going to be in Paducah?
Oh, well, your old neck of the woods, where you're from.
No.
California.
Yeah. Well, my neck of the woods is actually Pasadena, California.
Pasadena. Okay.
Yep.
Well, I'll be in Long Beach. I'll be down there at the Queen Mary. So that's Duke and I both will be there with Center Stage Events doing an investigation that weekend, and so that's going to be a lot of fun. So looking forward to that one, February 23rd.
Yeah.
And so they can, people get tickets for that one as well. And then I think that I've also got on my agenda already the Gettysburg Battlefield Bash. I think we're working on finalizing that. Oops, I don't know if I should have said that yet or not, but I think we're finalizing that one. So Gettysburg Battlefield Bash. And then
Cool.
October the 11th, I'll be at Little Traverse Bay Parafest. So up in Michigan again.
Well, we'll probably go to the Battlefield Bash. We were part of the very first one, and we were going to go to the next one, but unable to. We had some issues arrive, so we couldn't go. But yeah, we'll probably go next year. That'll be pretty cool.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, man. I love Gettysburg. I just the energy there is so intense, and every time I have been there, even just driving through, I've had an experience that I can't explain.
Oh, okay.
So,
what was it?
There's always been something. Just driving through the battlefield at night, hearing voices out there yell at you.
Yeah.
Smelling, odors of decay. Even when we were investigating the show, catching the EVP that said Abraham Lincoln, that one still blows me away every time I think about it.
Yeah, we were told when we were going to go on the battlefield, they said that we can't take any cameras because it looks like that it's a metal detector, and they don't want to have any cameras or any equipment out on the battlefield because people are mistaking them for metal detectors, and they won't allow it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know about that being an issue. I mean, I take my cell phone.
Yeah.
And I take photos of my cell phone.
Right.
But I don't know if they would say. I saw people up there with cameras the last time I was up there taking pictures.
Yeah. Well, I contacted them because I was like, we're going to be out here in Gettysburg. We're going to the Gettysburg Battlefield Bash, and we would like to go out there and do some filming on the battlefield. And I even told them what type of cameras we have. They're like, no. State regulations and state park regulations.
Okay.
Nope.
You were probably wanting to be out there after 10 p.m., weren't you?
Yeah, I want to be out there when it's dark.
Well, it's dark. It gets you can get out there when it's dark, but that being a national landmark, I think they're pretty tight on those.
Oh yeah.
So it takes a lot.
Yep. So maybe next year, because originally we planned that we were going to go this year, and we were going to go ahead and just hang out in Gettysburg for the whole weekend, so that way we could actually experience Gettysburg. Because the first year we were in the event, I did I was involved with the karaoke contest. I was also performing live, and we had a booth, so we didn't have any time to really go out and enjoy Gettysburg, so to speak. So we were like, okay, we're going to go back next year, and we will get a hotel. We'll go to the Battlefield Bash. We'll go see everybody, and then we'll go and experience Gettysburg. Well, that didn't happen, so maybe we'll do that next year.
Oh yeah, there's always next year, but you got to make sure that you put it in your agenda and just try your best to do it. Because I'm dying to get back down to Devil's Den because it was so late when I got there. I didn't get to explore and walk around as much as I want to. So I'm looking forward to getting back in there and doing that when I get back there.
Sounds like a winner. And there's a lot of places there in Gettysburg that we would like to check out. The orphanage. What was the other one that you wanted to look at?
The General Lee Museum.
The who?
The General Lee Museum.
General Lee Museum?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Gettysburg.
Every time she says General Lee, I always think of the car from Dukes of Hazzard.
Well, that's what I was sitting there thinking, too. I was like, I
See?
had a General Lee Museum up there. I wonder if they've got Daisy Duke's Jeep up there, too, and Cooter's Wrecker.
Wrong kind of General Lee.
Nope, that's only in Nashville.
Yes, it is. It's definitely in Nashville, right down next to the Opryland Hotel.
Yep.
Oh, that's awesome.
All right, so I got to ask you this question here. Going through your the introduction or your bio, I'm still kind of lost on the unexplainable event that you had where you actually thought that it was your mom cooking breakfast, but it wasn't her.
Mm-hmm. Right.
What was it? Was it a doppelganger?
I'm to this date, I am not sure. It's one of those things where, and I tell this story everywhere I go because people find it fascinating. I still find it fascinating because it's one of the most vivid supernatural experiences that I've ever had.
Mm-hmm.
I would, of course, growing up in this, in the family in the South that I did, my father being, a preacher and involved in the church, and then being around the church all my life, and we were always around when people passed away, and there for funerals, and we're just like any other typical family in the South. When someone passes away, we all get together, we go to the funeral home, we're there for the service and there for the graveside service, and then afterwards, you all get together and you sit around, you reminisce, you drink coffee and just talk, and it always seemed to get the discussion always seems to go back to people telling ghost stories or having something that just creeps them out or makes them feel weird. And growing up like that, I always heard people tell these stories. And, I never could understand. I was like, why does this cousin or this uncle or this aunt or this grandparent or whomever, why do they have these stories that are so awesome that I want to experience, but I've never experienced it.
Right.
And so, and it went on and it never happened. But I always had this extreme curiosity as to, what was it? What was it that everybody was talking about? Why do they all have these stories? Why do they always have these tales? And so I was in college. At this point in time, I was attending Western Kentucky University.
Okay.
And, the Big Red Blob. And so I was up there, and I came back home to my parents' house for the weekend. So I rolled back in on Friday night, was here at the house, and I woke up the next morning, and I smelled breakfast. I was like, oh, thank God, Mom's made breakfast. This is going to be amazing, because I'm at college, I'm living on ramen noodles and stuff.
Right.
And, hot plate and ramen noodles and pizza, and that's a treat.
College days.
So I get up and I smell breakfast. I smell the eggs, the bacon, the sausage, everything that's I've been missing in my life. So I'm excited here. And they live in a ranch home. And so as I walked down the hallway, I looked, kind of to my right and in front of me, kind of like to the 10, 11 o'clock area. Mm-hmm. And at that point, you're looking into the dining room and into the kitchen. And so I looked in there and I could see my mother standing there, what I thought was my mother, in a pink house coat. She was ambulatory. She was moving her arms. I could hear the spatula in the skillet. I could hear the exhaust fan over the stove. I could hear the skillet sizzling. And I could smell these breakfast smells. I could see her there.
Right.
And so I was like, oh, great, this is wonderful. I'm going to be digging in some hot breakfast. So as I stand there, the bathroom was just to my right. So I just stepped in the bathroom to freshen up and get ready for the morning. And couldn't have been in there more than, I would say less than a minute. Came back out, and when I opened the bathroom door, the smell was gone. There was no smell of breakfast. And there was no sound, no nothing. The house was stone cold quiet. Huh. And so I walked into the kitchen and I checked around. I thought, okay, well, if they had to go somewhere, if they had to go out to the farm or if they were headed out or anything like that, they would always leave me a plate either in the microwave or in the oven.
Right.
And so I checked both, and there was no plate there. So here I am. I'm thinking, where's breakfast at? So I go to the staircase going down to the basement, and I yell down there for them, and they don't answer. Couldn't find them, so I thought, well, maybe they had to go somewhere. So I opened the garage door, looked out, and their car was gone. Huh. So I came back up, and I was like, okay, I'm going to call them and find out because I know there was breakfast here. There's no way it's gone. It's here somewhere. So I called my dad's cell phone. I said, hey, where's breakfast? And he's like, what are you talking about? I said, breakfast. I was going to eat some breakfast. Where'd you do with it? He's like, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm like, Mom was just in here fixing breakfast. I just saw her. She was in the kitchen, and y'all had to leave, go somewhere. I was just checking to see where you left the food at. He's like, I'm not sure what you're talking about, son. And so there's this scuffling in the background, where my mom is getting the phone because she's wanting to figure out what's going on too. And so she gets on the phone because my dad has a hard time hearing.
Oh, no.
So she gets on the phone, and she goes, what are you talking about? What are you trying to ask him? And I said, where's breakfast? And she goes, I don't know what you're talking about. I said, well, you were just in here fixing breakfast. And she's like, no, I wasn't. She said, we've been shopping all day, all morning. I'm like, there's no way. I said, you were just in here fixing breakfast. She goes, no. She said, honey, we're in Bowling Green. And I'm like, but I just saw you. You were in here standing at the stove in a pink house coat cooking breakfast. I smelled it, heard it, saw it, and I was going to eat. So, I mean, that's why I was calling you. She said, first of all, we've been gone since before daylight.
Oh,
and second of all, if somebody is in that house wearing a pink house coat cooking breakfast, you need to get your butt outside and call the police right now.
You'd be like, no, they're making breakfast. I'm going to eat breakfast.
I'm like, yeah, I'm eating breakfast first. This is a free cook right here. I'm eating some breakfast.
Oh, wow.
So, I kind of hung up the phone perplexed, and I'm like, what have I just experienced? What did I witness? Because I'm the type of person that when I wake up, and I think it comes from my years of working rescue, years ago, and working in rescue, and then working in with the law enforcement capacity. I think that getting woke up from a dead sleep, I'm still trained, or it's still ingrained in my system and in my clock to wake up immediately. So when I wake up, I am fully coherent. I'm not one of those people that takes a long time to wake up. I like to have my coffee, but if I wake up, I'm awake. So it wasn't one of those things where I was walking in the hall still in a daze or still daydreaming. I mean, I was awake. I was fully cognitive. I'd already gotten dressed. And so, it wasn't one of those things where I was sleepwalking or something like that. This was something that I experienced that had sight, sound, and smell. And to this day, I cannot explain what it was. Now, one of the things that my mother used to always do, she would get me to tell this story whenever we were around family. So she'd be like, tell them about your ghost story. Tell them about your ghost story. And, she said she never owned a pink house coat for years. And then one time I was telling the story, and she said, you know what? She said, I just remembered something. Your grandmother gave me a pink house coat when your father and I got married. And she said, I don't know where that thing's at. Well, at that point in time, I still had all of those people in my life here in the living world. And so, it wasn't something that, because I've had people ask me, well, you think it was your grandmother? I was like, no, she was alive down the road here.
Right.
She was probably cooking breakfast, for herself. So I don't know what it was. You asked me if it was a doppelganger. I can't say that it was or it wasn't. I can tell you that years later, I was driving down the road here at the farm, and as I drove down the road, I came across this woman walking up the road who had a pink coat on. And as I went past her, she waved, and I waved back, and I was like, that was weird. It just felt weird. And as I looked over into my rearview mirror and looked back, she was gone. So I literally stopped the truck, looked out the window behind me trying to see where did she go. Did I hit her? Did I hit her with a mirror? Because I was driving a big diesel truck at the time.
Right.
And I still drive a big diesel truck, but this is a different one. But I was like, did I hit her with a mirror, or what did I do? And no. I mean, there was no one there. It was really a shocking situation, and I've not seen her since. So I don't know what it was. I have no clue. As you know as well as I do, that some spirits can be transient, and sometimes they just like places for a little while.
Right.
And who knows? Who knows what it was? But it was a vivid enough experience that I will never forget it. And the amount of detail that I recall from seeing that, I mean, if I could sit down, if I was a good enough artist and could do the artwork, I could draw a picture of this woman. I mean, literally from behind, I could draw the style of her hair. I could see the colors in her hair. The shape of her body was very similar to my mother's. So I mean, everything was very, very, very similar, and all that is still very vivid in my mind. So it was an amazing experience, and one that I tell everywhere, because I have not ever had an experience like that since.
Yeah, well, see, here's the thing. Back then, you wanted to have your own story, and now you got it.
Yes. Now I've got it. And, buddy, is it vivid?
Probably need to contact Amy Allen, see if she could draw what you saw.
Yeah, you know what? She is an artist, isn't she?
Mm-hmm. A pretty darn good one, too.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny. I've never sat down with anyone and kind of talked through it, but I probably should do that and try to get a rendering.
Yeah.
So I can kind of cover it, because I mean I can remember down to the details of the tie, around the back, and how the house coat was kind of bunched up over top of the tie. I mean, it was amazing. So anyway.
Yeah,
that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Right? But yeah, you really might want to contact Amy and tell her this, and I'm sure she'd probably go ahead and draw up your image, and then you'll be surprised when you see it.
Be very surprised. Yeah. Okay. Well, sounds cool. Oh my gosh, may have to try that out.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen the Dead Files, and it's truly amazing how she can just draw, and it's like the people are like, "Oh my God, that's Uncle Bob," or I'm like, "Geez, seriously? That's awesome."
How did you know it, Uncle Bob? How did you draw a picture of Uncle Bob?
Right. So that kind of creepy. All right.
Creepy.
Well, we always ask this to all of our guests, and Paula usually asks it, so I'm going to wait for her to get her headphones on.
Yeah, I had to go run an errand.
You had to go run an errand? Really?
It was an emergency errand.
You had to do an emergency
errand.
An emergency errand in the house.
Yes.
Oh,
listen,
my.
That's okay. We all have to run errands on occasion.
All right, so go ahead and ask them.
Ask what?
Oh, my God. What do we normally ask all of our guests? It's your question.
What made you? I know that you do a lot of the history research of locations and getting involved into the backstory of a location.
Mm-hmm.
What enticed you into doing that? Because I'm the historical researcher for the group, and I know history it fascinates me beyond belief. So I was
yes. Well, we as you well know, without history, we don't have ghosts.
True.
We don't have the stories that go along with them. But in order to answer your question, I have to go back to college, because I always hated history. I was not a history buff. I was not a history nut. Didn't enjoy it. I was always more of a mathematics and science guy. And I was a process guy, how things worked, how things went together, all of that kind of thing. So I was in college, and this was when I was working on my first degree. I think this was my very first degree I was working on.
Okay.
And it was my second year of college, I think it was, and I had a history professor. I took a history class, and the history professor, when I went in that day, everybody was like, "Oh my God, you're taking this class?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm taking the class. It sounded like a cool class." And went in and sat down. The history professor, he came in, and he had a long ponytail, and he said, "If you're in here to just try to get a grade to bolster your GPA, this is not the class for you, because I don't give A's. No one is perfect, and no one deserves an A.
Oh, wow.
So the best you'll get in here is a B plus, and an excellent education." So half the class stood up and left.
Oh, jeez.
So I'm sitting there, and I'm like, okay, I've got about a week or so before I have to pull out of this class and move to another one, but this guy has my attention. I want to sit here and see what he has to say.
Right.
And so as we started going into how the class was going to be structured and what we're going to study, it was a theory on history class. And so what it was not just the study of your generally accepted history books and generally accepted stories of history. It was delving into some of the more fanatical versions of history that have been recorded, and more of the stories from another viewer's aspect or another person's perspective of that time period.
Okay.
And then it got more into evaluating the different versions of history and then digging deeper, searching for answers, searching for those little pieces that would pull it all together to tell you the true story. Not just the story that this author wanted you to believe, and not just the story that this other author wanted you to believe, or the story this author wanted to discredit. It was more of coming to your own conclusion based on your research.
Right.
So as we went through the class, it was very tough, but it was one of those classes that engaged your mind and really got you interested in the subject matter that you were studying. And so I went through this class, and we started studying for our exams. You know, we got to our final exam, and I'm still hanging in there because it turned into something that I just genuinely loved. This professor really turned me on to history. And went in to take the final exam thinking that I would have to know dates and facts from a book and recite different pieces of historical literature, but that wasn't the case. I walked in the classroom to take the final exam. He told us to bring a container of pencils and legal pads, he would provide the legal pad, and so bring our pencils. We walked in. He gave each of us, as we walked in, a legal pad, and then right before the exam started, he said, "Okay, I want you to write down everything that you've learned in this class."
Oh, geez.
What your belief is in what you learned, and support it with the evidence that you have to use to support your theory. Now, I was thinking, oh my gosh, I'm dying. I'm never going to pass this. There's no way I can. I'll have writer's block. I won't do anything.
Right.
I want you to know I sat there and I wrote out, I think it was 48 pages of information that I wrote out.
Jesus.
During the time period of that class. I ended up with a B+ in the class. There were some that wrote more than me, some that wrote less, but nevertheless, it taught me, it gave me a crucial skill, and that is the skill of being objective and looking at all angles, not just taking the given scenario or the given case and taking it as the gospel. You know, it was digging deeper. And so going from that, I started having a genuine interest in my own history, my own story. And so I started digging into genealogy. And as I started digging into my own history, I started finding these amazing stories and these amazing people. And it was like with every discovery was so emotional that it just drew me in. And from that point forward, I became a lover of history, because without history, none of us or none of what we research exists.
That's true.
So, giving you that background, when you start digging into these stories of haunts and ghosts and grotesque history or sad history or wonderful and beautiful history, you have to dig beyond the generally accepted story. You have to dig into what other people know, the stories that have been handed down through time and have been verbally exchanged from one person to the other, the way that our Native American ancestors did, because before they had a written language. That's what your shamans, your medicine man did. They would tell these stories to their apprentice and pass them down. Now, some of them got changed or some of it got lost, but that's the whole thing about getting out here and digging deeper. Talk to these people. Look for family Bibles that are associated to locations and see if you can find stories that are recorded in those Bibles. Look and see if you can find the census information or writings from the time, because the population was not as vast and as dense if you go back 100 or 150 or 200 years in certain areas of the country. And so you find that this person that you may be digging into the history and researching, they may have a personal connection to something else that is much more famous that you can find more information about. So you have to dig. You have to dig deep. And two, there's a lot of times there's history that people wanted to hide and they just didn't want it to get out there.
Right.
But there's little snippets that you can find and put together with a story, and then you can start to paint the picture of what truly happened during that time period.
Skeletons in the closet.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay.
That is the proverbial skeleton in the closet that's waiting to jump out and scare the teetotal living crap out of you.
Oh, man. Well, on that note, we're at the half mark of the show, so we are going to go ahead and pause for a few commercials here. You're listening to the Fantastic Journey podcast. I'm your host, Gavin Kelly, and Paula Purcell, and our guest tonight is Scott Porter from the Tennessee Race Chasers, and we will be right back after a few moments.
Okay, what are you wearing right now?
Nothing.
That's right. So mommy's going to teach you how to dress yourself. Underwear always comes first, name tag at the back, then pants, then shirt. Get the first button in the right hole or you have to start all over. Socks going first, then shoes, right on right, left on left. With shoelaces, just take the ends, cross them over, switch the loops. The rabbit goes down the hole, pull tight, and you're left with bunny ears. Got it? Why are your pants on your head?
Most parenting is hard to do in just 2 minutes. But 2 minutes twice a day making sure they brush their teeth is easier, and it could help save them from a lifetime of tooth pain. Visit 2min2x.org to find out more. A message from the Partnership for Healthy Mouths, Healthy Lives, and the Ad Council.
This message is for all of you sitting in the passenger seat. And apologies if it gets a little uncomfortable. But how does it feel to be at the mercy of someone who thinks a random text is more important than your life? Someone who takes their eyes off the road while speeding along in a 3-ton hunk of steel. Freaky, right? Well, why not just ask them to stop? Or better yet, volunteer to text for them. It might be a little awkward, but believe me, you'll live.
Learn more at StopTextStopWrecks.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
We are live outside the home of Joe and Rosie Goddard, where a pretty big tickle fight broke out just minutes ago. Sources say their father instigated the laughter. Let's go inside for a comment. Apparently, they have no comment. Dads, let this be a reminder that it only takes a moment to make a moment. Call 877-4DAD-411 or visit fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
How's it going? I'm having a stroke. Are you going to shake my hand? I'm having a stroke. Wow, you're not even moving your arm. I'm having a stroke.
When someone is having a stroke, they may not be able to say it with words, but their body language will tell you loud and clear. Look for FAST. F, face drooping. A, arm weakness. S, speech difficulty. T, time to call 911 immediately. Know the sudden signs. Spot a stroke fast. Visit strokeassociation.org. Brought to you by the American Stroke Association and the Ad Council.
People been saying to your friend, get a different face. And posting on their feed, they're super ugly. The things they say to them online are cruel and they're not true. So tell your friend, I'll stand up for you. Don't worry, I know what to do.
Know someone being bullied online? You can be a witness and make a difference by letting the world know it isn't cool and by letting your friend know you care. Learn more at eyewitnessbullying.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Keyboard Cat, Hamilton the Pug, and Toast Meets World. These are some of the internet's most beloved pets. And they all have one thing in common. Their stories started in a shelter. Start your story. Adopt a dog or cat today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a pet near you. Training that pet to play the keyboard, that's optional. Start a story. Adopt a shelter or rescue pet today. Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
Allison is perfect. I mean, she'd never tell you that. She's humble and perfect. She likes everyone. She even likes her untidy roommate's weird guinea pig. Allison, wait, are you texting and driving? Allison, no. That's the exact opposite of what I was just saying about you. Why, Allison? Why? Texting and driving makes good people look bad. Visit StopTextsStopWrecks.org. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
We are live outside the home of Joe and Rosie Goddard, where a pretty big tickle fight broke out just minutes ago. Sources say their father instigated the laughter. Let's go inside for a comment. Apparently, they have no comment. Dads, let this be a reminder that it only takes a moment to make a moment. Call 877-4DAD-411 or visit fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Driving has a rhythm all its own. Don't wreck it with a text. Before you get behind the wheel, silence your phone. Or better yet, designate a texter. For more text-free driving tips, visit StopTextsStopWrecks.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
The Phantasmic Journey Podcast is brought to you by Tascam and Amazon Studios. For more than 30 years, Tascam has developed products for every segment of the sound and music industry. From the high-end audio professional in a major post-production studio to the novice of hobbyists at home, Tascam is everywhere. They are a company committed to providing their customers audio and video solutions that enable breakthroughs by using sound in ways that are exciting as they are accessible, even recording the voices of the dead. You asked for a non-scripted paranormal TV show. You begged for a non-staged paranormal TV show. You begged and you pleaded, and we have listened. We present to you Season 1 of The Paranormal Journey into the Unknown. It was released October 31st, 2017. In this series, we show you what it's like behind the scenes and conducting a real paranormal investigation. Join Gavin Kelly, Paula Purcell, and their special guests to seek out the existence of life after death by going to numerous haunted locations such as jails, hospitals, battlefields, and museums, collecting compelling evidence by means of video, photography, and EVPs. In this season, the crew investigates the St. Albans Sanatorium, Old South Pittsburgh Hospital, Jailhouse Pizza, and the famed Monroe House. And you can watch Season 1 of The Paranormal Journey into the Unknown on Amazon.com right now. Season 2 and 3 will be coming soon.
All right, welcome back to the Phantasmic Journey podcast. I'm your host, Gavin Kelly, and next to me is Paula Purcell. Kelly, tonight our special guest is Scott Porter from the Tennessee Race Chasers. How are you doing this evening, Scott?
Man, I am doing just fine. Finer than frog hair split 4 ways.
Oh, wow. Oh, it's kind of weird with those commercials. One of them sounded like it was just dragging.
You know, and I'm listening to them, and there was one thing I found funny, and I got distracted. I was going to mention it to you, and I totally forgot what it was. But yeah, it was great. I was listening, and I got a chuckle out of it. Now I'm like, oh well, it must not have been important. It didn't stick.
Must have been the tickle fight one.
Yep. Well, the tickle fight one was pretty good. I was chuckling at that one too. That was kind of funny. The tickle fight broke out.
All I know is Paula.
This is real news.
Exactly. Yeah. Paula was looking at me, and I'm just going. It's going. I'm like, what in the world? Oh man.
Hey, you just got to get back to talking spookies with me.
Yeah, that's it. That's what we like to do. We like to talk ghost stories. And since we're on that subject, what would you say would be the most memorable experience that you had, and what was the location? And I know there's a lot.
You know, that is very tough, and I get that question all the time. Mm-hmm. And I have to answer it. I have to answer it very carefully, because every location that you go to where you do have an interaction, every one of those interactions, they're all unique, they're all different.
Yep.
And they're all very memorable. I think that there are certain things that draw us into specific haunts or really bring us into a specific location, and we get a connection to it. I always talk about Gettysburg and the EVP of Abraham Lincoln, simply because that was an amazing piece of EVP evidence. Excuse me. And there's a huge portion of the scenario that the general public doesn't know, and that is that we were in the basement of the Mason-Dixon Militaria, and we were doing that investigation. We were doing a burst session.
Right.
We each asked a question, and then as Doogie was going to turn the recorder off, I said, "Wait a minute, I have one more question." And I asked, who was the leader of our country that stayed in the brick building across the way and addressed our nation at the end of the war? Now, I wasn't talking about the Gettysburg Address at the time that I asked that question. I was actually thinking of his last address to the country on the White House lawn before he was assassinated. But nevertheless, I asked the question. We got the EVP of Abraham Lincoln. But what everyone doesn't know is that directly above us in the Mason-Dixon Militaria, before it closed, there was a shadow box hanging on the wall.
Okay.
And within that shadow box, I became intimately familiar with the shadow box because I was contemplating purchasing it at the time, and I wish I had. But we were a little bit off on price, but I should have just bit the bullet. But the shadow box contained a photograph of Lincoln that he had made. It contained a document signed by Lincoln and his Secretary of War.
Oh, wow.
There was another piece of documentation in there from Lincoln. And then the holy grail of historical subject matter. There was a lock of hair that was taken from Lincoln's head when he was assassinated.
Oh, wow.
Now, if you know the story of Lincoln's assassination, the attending physician harvested 7 locks of hair that he gave to people in the room with Lincoln that day.
Right.
One of those is in the Smithsonian. The others have been lost to the ages, except for this one. And upon digging into it, there was a 3-ring binder of supporting documentation, letters from the Library of Congress, the National Archives, the DNA testing that was done to certify and verify that was one of the locks of Lincoln's hair. So there was something substantially close to him that was right there above us in a city that was a monumental turning point of the war, and in a location where Lincoln spent, some time both addressing the soldiers, the country, or the people there of Gettysburg, and addressing those upon the moving of the bodies from the battlefield to the National Cemetery. So there was a lot of time spent there. And to get that EVP with that in the room building with us, because we were not even expecting to get that type of a response,
right,
was a very unique experience. And so you combine all of that information together, and it really supports a lot, that evidence that you got, that interaction that you get. So that was a very memorable moment. Many others you catch the full-bodied apparitions or the shadow people. I think now when people ask me about memorable, interactions, I would talk about the Bell Witch investigation that we did on Haunted Live. I would talk about the Lotes house where I was poked in the back because I thought that was one of our camera guys that actually did it, and so I don't know who that was. There's several things that come to mind when I think about those pivotal moments or those monumental interactions that stand out in my head. And gosh, Craig Font Museum, Linwood, all of these places, they had amazing activity, and I could sit here and talk about those for hours.
You got plenty of time.
Well, that's the thing. It depends on how many questions you have to ask.
Well, going back to that shadow box, what did that shadow box run, cost-wise?
The shadow. I think at that point in time they were asking. I think they were asking $6,000 for it.
Yikes!
So in retrospect, looking at the historical significance of it, it's actually priceless.
Yeah, exactly.
So that was a really good deal, and probably should have picked that up. So of all the things I found on the road, that's probably one that I should have went ahead and picked up and just bit the bullet and did it, because people, I've talked to some other people about it, friends and family. They're like, well, what would you have done with that? And I was like, well, I would have probably had to have gone to the bank and had it stored in a safe until I could get an appropriate home for it, with the appropriate stuff to make sure that it was taken care of. But it would have been an investment and owning a piece of our American history that nobody else can own.
Well, what do you think the chances are that he would have been attached to his lock of hair, that you could actually investigated it if you had it?
I mean, that is a very personal, piece of subject matter. And, in essence, it's possible. I can't say that it's not, because we've all experienced things attached to lesser items.
Right.
So, it's very possible that could have been, the case. Especially considering the significance of everything surrounding it and the situation that occurred when the lock of hair was taken. So, you expend that type of energy, there has to be some type of residual mark,
right,
so to speak, on that subject matter that may kick up or incite future interactions. A recording, if you will, that may bring about an interaction. So, yeah, that could have been. It was probably more significant for someone like us on that paranormal platform, but for someone like me, I was more in awe of the history.
Well, on that note, what is your take on mail order haunted items that supposedly have an attachment to it?
Mail order haunted items. Well, so I'm assuming that you're talking about when people say, "Hey, I've got this haunted thing. You can buy it," and they sell it.
Yeah, and they send it to you via the mail, and you wind up getting it either USPS or UPS or FedEx. And I'm thinking to myself, going, okay, how can this object actually have an attachment attached to it?
That's one of those things where I've always wondered how that happens. And you look at some of the stuff that we did in Ghost Asylum, and people look at what we did there and they call it, we called it traps, we called it transportation devices, or whatever you will.
Right.
But the whole concept for me in that situation was, people talk about attachments all the time. They talk about spirits being connected to an item that travels everywhere.
Right.
Now, is a spirit bound to that item, or have they just chosen to become affectionately involved with that item? Perhaps. But nevertheless, there has to be some type of energy there. And so in order to try to prove that, what you have to do is you have to have an item that should not, or does not and should not have energy on it because of some known source that exists in the environment.
Right.
And then upon having a paranormal interaction, I'll say paranormal, but I really mean supernatural interaction.
Right.
And after that supernatural interaction where that energy is expended, if that energy then is placed in or is attached to the item in question, does that item now become infested with an attachment because of the energy?
Right.
So can you take that item then from the location where the supernatural event occurred, and now that it has energy on it, can you transport that item to another location and energy transport or stay with that item? A supernatural battery, if you will.
Right.
So, which is what we were trying to do and look to in Ghost Asylum.
Right.
So to say that you have a mail order haunted item, okay, send it to me, let me look at it, let me try to see if I can sense something on it, if I can take a reading, if I can find some type of energy, or if you can feel something, who knows? Maybe there's something there. I'm sure that in some cases, if I told you an item had an attachment, and I supported that with some very detailed and specific stories, you would come to believe that item had an attachment, and therefore mentally we may manifest that attachment ourselves, and manifest some of that interaction. I think that mail order items that have haunted are possible, but I would be very cautious of what I was getting, not only because of it not being haunted, but because of how significant the attachment may be.
Right.
Because you could be getting a whole lot more than what you bargained for.
True. But, I always thought, I'm like, okay, well, here's the deal. If you go ahead and order something online, and inside this box, is it like submerged with holy water? Is it wrapped with sage?
Right.
Is it in a glass box with salt?
It's whatever's going to work for you. It's whatever you believe.
Yeah.
Because one person may believe you need to have this thing, wrapped with sage, you need to have it wrapped with holy water, you need to have it wrapped with the Shroud of Turin, whatever the case is. And what happens when you unzip this rascal and take a look at it?
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Is something going to happen, or is nothing going to happen? You're taking a chance.
Exactly. Yeah, we always want to get a take on all of our guests to see what they come up with, and by far yours is like the best answer so far.
Well, it comes from a lot of careful thought in what I do and how I interact with these things out there, because we really don't know what we're delving into, and we really don't know how they're going to interact back with us. Some of these interactions may be harmless, and others may have ulterior motives.
Right. I mean, the reason why I always bring this up is, I watch all the shows, all of them. And the one that sticks out in my mind is Haunted Collector with John Zaffis. What does he do with the haunted item? Well, he puts it in a glass case with salt ring. So basically the item is in the center of a salt ring. So then I'm thinking to myself, going, okay, so if he wants to mail that to someone, what's gonna cause it to gone?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how you would conceptually make that happen. But if you place an item within a container, and then you had a cylinder with a void and another cylinder, you could, in essence, fully encase that item in a salt ring and then transport it. If the salt ring is the containing substrate for that particular haunted item or supernatural entity. So I think that you would have to apply a little bit of engineering and ingenuity and creativeness in trying to develop the packaging system to make sure that it was handled as you would like for it to appropriately be handled.
Yep. Well, like I said, yours was the best answer so far.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, because, I mean, we've always been trying to figure this out because it's been driving me nuts, and I'm just like, okay, how does this work? I'm a huge fan of Supernatural. I ain't going to lie. And there was a time when Bobby was killed, and he was attached to his wallet. So whenever they would actually walk out of the house, Bobby was with them. And right when he gets to the door, he can't go. Well, why can't he go? Only way he can go is if you have the wallet on you.
Oh, okay.
And then he follows along because he was attached to his wallet.
Very, very interesting. You know what I find, what I think is going to be amazing is, I think 50 years from now, how many iPhones and other forms of communicating through social media are we going to be investigating because everybody's already attached to them in life. What's to make us think they won't be attached to them in death?
Okay, now Paula's about to rack your brains on this one.
Okay, well, there's a story, and I don't know if you have heard it or not. I've kind of been dabbling into the truths of this story, and I mean, I've heard of the strange phone calls, and I'm talking about back in the 70s when Mom had the phone hanging on the wall with the old rotor on it, and you had that little clingy tick, tick, tick going on.
A rotary?
A rotary phone,
Oh,
one of those old-fashioned rotary phones that hung on the wall. Now, occasionally we had strange things happen in my old house
and if
like
you
that.
screw up, you got to start all over again?
True, but
oh, God.
Besides the point of that. But, I mean, we've had strange, unexplained things for that, but we come to the conclusion it's operator's error. But anyway, fast-forwarding now to what you're talking about on cell phones and stuff. We have, and it's become a significant importance when people die now. About 20% of people wants to be buried with their cell phones. Who are they going to call?
Ghostbusters! Oh, sorry.
I mean, it's become one of the standards, and it's 20% of our population that has died or passed over to wherever they're going. Some people, whatever their faith is. They are one of the things they ask for, or one of the things the parents do is put their cell phone in the casket with them. Sometimes their devices are still active for a period of time.
Hey, that makes sense. Now I know why they have Wi-Fi in the cemeteries.
Oh, God.
There you go.
Yes, we have a cemetery in our hometown that they have Wi-Fi in. I'm still trying to understand that one to this day.
That's exactly why, because they're probably burying people with their cell phone, and their cell phone jumps on the Wi-Fi to contact you.
Oh, God.
or they get to go to their favorite website, faceplant.com.
Yes, that's exactly what I was getting ready to say. I was going to say the reason that people are asking to be buried with their phones is because they don't want anyone to look at their search history.
Oh, wow. There you go. Okay, now
because you know how it is. We all have these conversations. You're like, oh my gosh, can you believe that this right here exists? And so then you go ahead and you start Googling, or you start looking it up online, trying to figure out what it is, and you're looking through all this stuff. I mean, I can tell you right now, I did an investigation just a few weeks ago where we had a voice come through that referenced a sex toy item.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, God.
And yes, and so then we had to go back and we were Googling on the fly to see if this particular item would mesh up with the time period in which we were thinking that this entity was communicating from. And what we found is that this particular item was created in the early to mid 1800s, was the first recorded time of this item being created. And the first items of this type were created out of a ginger root. And I thought that was very intriguing to find out that we were getting this type of a term from a location that was related back to that time period, and then we were able to Google it and find it. Now, if someone got my phone and looked at it, they would wonder why I was Googling this particular item. And so at least now I have a story that's out there on the public that's recorded, that they can go back if something happens to me and they look at my phone and say, oh my gosh, what was he Googling this for? This is why, because it's research.
Well, you don't have to worry about it being on your phone. Whatever you search for on the internet, on like your laptop or computer, it will show up in your Facebook.
Listen, it's out there in the ethos. It's there. It's out there forever. It's floating around. Everything that you've ever done is floating around. That's why it's like, people always talk about, well, I'm doing this or sending this or getting this. I'm like, well, it's not just going from your phone to that phone. There's pieces of data out there everywhere. Look at radio transmissions that they have picked up years upon years after they were sent. They're still bouncing around out there.
Yeah.
So, you got to think, that nude you sent to that friend of yours back about a year ago, it's still bouncing around out there. Someday it's going to hit somebody's phone. They're going to be like, who's this naked person on here?
Well, I've noticed that about Facebook because I was actually, just looking up. What the heck was I looking up? It wasn't a ghost box. It was something else. It was like a radio or some sort. And all of a sudden, it shows up on the side on Facebook as a sponsored item. I'm like, really? How are you sponsoring an item that I just looked up?
Yeah, and that's the thing about it, because when you look at these companies and their marketing methods, and you're looking at what algorithms they're running in the background, is that they're trying to target whatever you're interested in, so that way it's right there in your face and immediately available for you to look at and purchase. So it's all about the almighty dollar. It's all about making sure that it's the easiest and most efficient way to get that product in front of you. So as soon as you start looking for it, and then you're everywhere you go, then that item is going to be in your face.
Oh, I know, right?
I thought that was crazy too, because I was like, man, they're watching every move we make, because no matter what you Google, it shows up in an ad on on your Instagram or on your Facebook or on your Twitter.
One of our sponsors is Glide Gear. They're the ones that sponsors our camera rigs and our tripods and our dollies and sliders and stuff. And I was just looking up a price for a friend of mine because they wanted to go ahead and look into the 3-axis gimbal. Well, I went ahead and gave him the price, and no big deal. I got off the website, shut the system down, loaded it back up, and then when I started going to different sites to do like research, and all of a sudden it got this big, huge bar going across. It's like, we noticed that you're watching us, and it was them.
Yes.
I'm like, what do you mean I'm watching you? More like you're watching me.
What they're doing is they're capturing that IP address, and then they're targeting you for sales. And there are some settings in there you can go and adjust where you won't get as much of that stuff, but it's pretty funny how all this social media is all interconnected, and the data triggers something for it triggers some marketing algorithm, and all that information gets sold. For everyone that they pick up, they get some money for it. Somebody gets some money. We don't get it, but somebody does.
I know, right? Hey, Paula, make sure that you don't go to any of them sites. I can just imagine.
But getting back to your story before we jumped off on our browser history.
I know, right? Well, you started the browser history.
Your browser history is a deep subject. But these phones, you're talking about the rotary phones, and you're talking about these phones being buried. I mean, they're eventually going to run out of energy, so they're going to have to get energy somewhere. But I don't know that they're burying them with them so they can make contact from the grave, and I don't know that Wi-Fi is really going to be of assistance. But I guess that it's. I would say that the reason people are more or less asking to be buried with their phones is to keep people from going into their browser history or whatever other things they have hidden in their phone. Because they have hidden files and hidden photos and all that kind of stuff now.
Yeah. But you read a story on that where this kid was buried with his cell phone.
Yeah, what it was is a bad car accident. The parents came in, traumatized because the child was like 18, 19 years old that had got killed. And one of the things were that they wanted him to be buried with was his cell phone. And, it was not the first time this guy had a case where, someone had their phone buried with him. Once in a blue moon, he gets one of those cases. So he went ahead and set and prepped and everything for the funeral, and he had went home that night, and he had gotten a mysterious text on his phone that stated that he was very upset that he didn't like, he was very upset that he didn't like his funeral. And the guy messaged back going, "Who is this?" He goes, "My name's Steve." And he goes,
"No, Bobby."
Or no, Bobby, that's what it was. He goes, "My name's Bobby." And he goes, "Bobby?" Because you talked to my parents today. And it was this text message back and forth. So the guy had come to the conclusion that someone was giving him a practical joke and had gotten the guy's phone out of the casket. So the next day, he made sure that he was the last person to leave the funeral home, and he locked everything up and made sure nobody was nobody was in there. The phone was back on the guy's chest before he closed the casket. He set the alarm, left. He got out the parking lot. This time the phone rang, and this time it was, he says, "My name's Bobby." And after that, he just closed the phone, and next day he called his boss, told him he was not coming back.
He's like, "That's it, I'm done."
Okay, you know what? That guy is not a paranormal investigator, because the first thing I would have done, I'd went back in, I'd turned that alarm off, I'd opened that casket, and I'd looked at the outgoing calls on that phone.
Yep. Or actually, I would have tried to call it. I would have called it back and see if it rang.
That would work too. But I would have definitely gone and looked to see if there was an outgoing call. There was no doubt about it. I'd have been like, okay, what's the deal here? And I would have called it to see if it rang. But the first thing I'd have went and looked. I'd have been like, okay, let's see if something was actually phoned out from there. You know, and you know, you think about it. You know, everything that we work with and talk about is energy.
Mm-hmm.
So is there a way for that energy to intermingle with the energy in a device and then make an intellectual change in that device to make it reach out and do what it's supposed to do? You look at what we use all the time. We use K2 meters, we use Bell meters, we use static sensing meters. You know, we're metered to death as far as paranormal investigators go.
Yep.
And we don't get to enjoy the experience anymore. But you look at all these meters we have, and we put so much weight in the fact that a blinky light comes on when we ask it to.
Right.
So what's to say that if we believe that energy can do that energy can't be strong enough to cause a communication device to reach out, and then that energy affect the how that device relays that information.
Right.
Like with a voice. You know, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that, no, it could never happen, because I've seen things that I thought could never happen.
Right.
So, you know, it's very interesting, but I would love to be present when it did happen, so that we could go in and look at the device and see if there's anything coming from it.
Yeah.
I would also be very curious to see, you know, if that device, you know, look at the history on that account and see if, you know, what cell tower repeater that signal came from.
Yeah.
And that way you could look and see if someone had that number transferred to another phone, or if they had closed the account and that phone number had been picked up by someone else. You just never know. There's so many natural causes and natural ways to do that, and there's also supernatural ways it could happen.
Yeah, and it kind of takes me to, like what you're talking about with different devices on how energy can affect it. I was a huge 100% doubter on the flashlight trick. I mean, every time I see someone do it, I always roll my eyes. And I'm like, okay, well, here's the deal. I want to see it done on a mag light where you don't have to unscrew it, you know? Yeah. And it don't work.
If you will go back and watch the episode of Ghost Asylum we filmed at, I think it was Sibley Mill.
Right.
I think it was Sibley Mill. We did and if that's not it, you have to go back and look and see. If that's not it, reach out to me. I'll figure out which one it was. I think it was Sibley Mill.
Okay.
But Chris and I were in the basement of that place, and I didn't have a mag light with me, and I laid a flashlight down that was one of the push button type where you have to click the button at the bottom of the flashlight.
Right.
And I laid it down on the floor, and we stepped away from it, and said, you know, we went through a whole investigation piece, and we said, you know, can you turn that flashlight on? That's going to be really hard to do. It's got a push button on the back. That's what you're going to have to actuate to make the light come on, and you know, or use your energy to make that light come on, and that's the only way it's going to happen. And we had the flashlight to come on. And that was probably one of the first times I'd ever seen that occur, and it really impressed and astonished us to the fact that, you know, we had one of those moments where we were like, you know, giddy with surprise.
Right.
Because, you know, you never expect it to happen, and then it does.
Yeah, because normally you're supposed to unscrew the headpiece so it barely making a connection where the entity can actually use its energy to connect both points, and that turns the flashlight on. So we were we do a thing called Ghostology 101 where we actually bring the community with us, and they come in and we teach them the do's and don'ts of paranormal and ghost hunting and what you need to do to become, a ghost hunter. And, after that, we took them for an investigation inside a mansion. And I said, okay, I'm going to do this little flashlight trick. And 2 people were like, ugh, like that. I go, yeah, I know. I used to roll my eyes all the time at this, so you guys are going to be a witness. I'm going to try it for the first time. So I unscrewed it, and it was a push button on the button. Push button on the bottom, same thing. So I unscrewed the top, so it'll barely make a connection, and I put it on the ground. And we were all in there, and we were talking, and I have another box called the Devil Jersey box. I'll tell you about that. That box is freaking phenomenal. So I was like, okay, what was the name of the girl? Emily? Oh, Emily. I said, Emily, if you're in this room, can you go ahead and turn that flashlight on? Boom, it went on. I said, it didn't even go on all that time while we were there. And I said, okay, Emily, if that's you, go ahead and turn the flashlight off for me. And all of a sudden it went off. You could hear the people and they're going,
Right.
I was like,
yeah,
wow. I can understand, where it's contracting and retracting, whatever, when it heats up or when it cools down, that would make it go on and off. But when you tell it to do it and it pops on, and then you tell it to go off and it goes off on command, then yeah, you made a believer out of me on that. But I've seen other times you turn it on and it's like it starts kind of illuminating a little bit, and then So yeah, I understand.
Yeah, and even at that, if I'm really going to do a full-fledged flashlight type piece, the one time that I did it that really impressed me is I had 2 flashlights. I did the same thing, but had them both set them on the floor, and at this location, I was going through the whole questioning. I like to tell people that they're not really investigations that we do anymore with the spirits. We do interrogations,
right?
Because we're kind of commanding in what we do, which really is not how we need to be going about this. We need to have a kinder, softer, gentler approach, and I think we'd get more activity that way.
Right.
But I was doing my interrogation, and I had my 2 flashlights down there. And I asked the entity there, I was like, I really would like it if you would come out here and, talk to us, communicate, interact with us. I've got these 2 flashlights on the ground. If you could light one of those up, that would be great to let me know that you're here. And boom, one of the flashlights came on. And I was like, okay, that's a really cool trick. I appreciate that. That's exactly what I asked for. Can you keep that flashlight on, and can you turn the other one on for me too? Boom, the other flashlight came on. I'm like, okay, so this is a little ironic. Okay. And so then I'm sitting there and I think, okay, so you turn those both on individually. If you have enough energy, could you turn them both off at the same time? They both flickered and went off at the same time.
Oh, wow.
To me, that's not a coincidence.
No.
If it's on command when I say it or ask it, and it's one flashlight, there is a chance in the ethos that those timelines could converge at the right moment, as is the physical change in the device itself. But to have 2 mutually exclusive devices that are no way connected to one another interact on command and in sequence when you're asking the energy of the entity to do so, I don't see that as a coincidence, and I put a lot more gravity in something like that, where it's on more than one device, or it's substantiated by 2 different modes of investigation.
Well, on the same token as that, where you're basically using it like a communication device, and there are certain things where the best thing to do is try to break the language barrier because when you're trying to communicate with something, if you don't know Spanish, you're not going to be able to communicate with them. If you don't know German, you're not going to be able to communicate with them. We've been using a device called the Dandy Box, and it has 3 pendulums on it, and it doesn't talk. It has 3 sounds. We actually use sounds to communicate with our entities. It's like, okay, if this tone means yes, this tone means no, this tone means eh. And that's one of the devices that we've been using to bypass the language barrier, because when we use the Echovox, sometimes we get German coming through it, and unless you know somebody that's German, you're not going to be able to decipher what the heck it just said.
No, you're going to think it's just a random noise.
Yeah. So using the Dandy Box, we're actually bypassing the language barrier. Doing the thing with the flashlight, using 2 of them, you could actually use one as yes and one as no, and they're able to do that because they actually, I guess they understand what yes and no means. I mean, yes and no basically means the same thing in all languages, I'm assuming.
I mean, yes, and I think that understanding that they may not. If you're basing it solely on language interpretation from a supernatural standpoint, are they still confined in death or in spirit form to their language barriers? I don't know. I can't answer that. Although we have heard different languages, I have had the opportunity to communicate with Native American spirits. I cannot speak any native tongues, so I speak the language that I know, and that's English. I have had interactions with things, with entities, spirits, that should not understand what I'm saying.
Right.
But throughout the eons and throughout the time, have they come to learn those languages, or is there a higher level of understanding that happens upon the transition to the spirit world? Or are these spirits those that have been here for eons and have always known, or of the all-knowing type, because of their such a connection to the earth and the environment around them? I don't know. But we have heard different languages out there before. And, is it safe to assume that they only speak that language and they can't communicate in another? I don't know. That's one of those questions. Maybe they would communicate more readily if they felt like you were respecting them and speaking their language. But I don't know that they're confined to that.
Yeah, so that's the reason why we actually use the Dandy Box when we try to communicate with them, because we don't know who or what type of nationality we're trying to communicate with, so they're able to communicate with sound, and it's actually worked. I mean, we've had it go off at the Hinsdale House in New York. Where was the other place it went off at? The Crime and Punishment Museum in Ashburn, Georgia, and she actually put that on top of the trapdoor where they drop the people when they get hung.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's cool.
That was crazy.
That's really cool. I tell you what. This weekend, I was doing an event. I was up there at the Firehouse Museum, and John Tenney, he stated a very neat statistic, and it's based upon the acreage, viable acreage in the world, and based upon an estimation of the number of people that have passed on in the world. That people looking for spirits in different locations, that we should have. I believe he said it was 24 spirits per acre.
Oh wow!
I think that was the number he said. I think that's what it was. It was either 12 or 24. I may be saying that wrong, but nevertheless, with that number, that amount of calculated spirit energy around, and the fact that some of these spirits are mobile and move about, you never know what you might be communicating or where it might be from.
Right.
And and to be communicating with something in a different language, you never know if what you're communicating with has maybe living in a foreign world, foreign country, or in a foreign time, and just decided, hey, I want to go over here and hang out for a while.
Right.
And like you said, if you have a device that you can bridge that communication gap with, you never know what kind of leaps and bounds you may make. So I think it's a great thing to try.
Yeah. Would you just be quiet about the ghost chicken?
Oh, the ghost chicken.
Oh, my God. Yeah, we were talking to Doogie last week, and all of a sudden, I thought he opened a door because it sounded like a door, but it was a chicken. And he goes, nah, I don't have any chickens here. I got chickens in my freezer. One named Tyson. But, it kind of brings me to this idea. I get this question all the freaking time. And just earlier today on Facebook, somebody asked it too. Why is it that we're always, when we're communicating with spirits, that they're always from the 1800s? How come? What happened to the ghost dinosaurs?
That's a very interesting concept, and I have spoken to several people about that because it's one of those things. Why are we not sitting here communicating with a caveman? And
right.
What I've learned from people who have theorized and have studied some of the spiritual teachings of different sects and different ideas, different cultures. I say sex, S-E-C-S. But in studying that, what has been recorded and documented in some texts are that as the spirit ages, the energy decreases and eventually gets to a point to where it has diminished so much that it no longer communicates. It goes back to wherever it was going. So these energies that we communicate that are from these time periods are more readily able to communicate with us just based upon the fact that their energy has not been so depleted.
Right.
Now, if you're looking at communicating with something that is much older or much more connected to the earth, let's say, like people sometimes interact with things and they call them demons.
Right.
I don't think that a lot of the entities that people interact with are demons. I think that a lot of those things are more along the lines of elementals. And then even in the case of an elemental, an entity that has never been in living form, some entities that people interact with are maybe Native American spirits that are much larger than your average spirit and much more pronounced because of their such a spiritual connection to their environment and to the land around them. So when you dig into these spirits that people always ask, they say, well, why is it everything is from the Civil War, or everything is from this time period, or everything is here in this time period? I think that is a time where they have their energy. And this is just reading what other people put together, but I think it's that they have those energies there. They're able to know how to use them, how to communicate before the energy is depleted. So you're kind of catching them in a sweet spot. Even when you get newer entities, when you're investigating something that is a lot more current, you get into a situation where maybe that spirit energy has not learned to communicate from that standpoint yet.
Right.
And two, another thing we have to take into effect is that there's still people living, so we don't get to investigate those newer haunts, so to speak. So you don't, just because of the sensitivity issue of the matter. But the fact is that from what I've studied and what I've read was that those entities that are in that 200, 300, 400-year-old, 500-year-old type time frame, that they're at their high point of being able to communicate with us before that energy starts to deplete. And then, of course, you can go into other belief systems. And, for me being Christian, I don't believe in this way. But when you start reading about other belief systems and other ideals and things that people have stated, even if you look at reincarnation has a timeline.
Right.
And if you study that in some text and some documents that follow that train of thought, then there's a timeline that's associated with that. So there's this time of communication and there's a time of rebirth. So there's many ways to look at it, and I think you have to take all of that into account
as you start getting into the conversation of why do you only communicate with Civil War entities.
Right. I always kid around and say, when you get growled at, it's actually oh my God, a velociraptor. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, velociraptor. Well, I think dinosaurs just cross over right away. They didn't hang around anytime.
No, they blew up. Oh man.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, they got their fill and moved on. There's this thing called a asteroid or volcano, super volcano. Yep. Volcanic winter kind of put them in the freeze. Yep. Fossils are fossils.
Yep. But I always get that question, and it's just like, I kind of thought, I just came up with this idea myself that there's certain levels, kind of like a classroom, in other words, where the people from the 1800s and they're the head of the class, so to speak, and then everybody else underneath still has to work at it to get to where they are, like Beetlejuice.
Beetlejuice.
So, I mean, that's how I kind of figured that out.
Yeah, and it's a very thought-provoking question, and it's a very good question, and one of those that's really good to debate and hypothesize about. Which is really cool. So I think that there are several ways to look at it. But, if you get out there and study it and start digging into the research that's been done before us, you'll find that there's lots of energy timelines that go along with this thing we do called paranormal investigations.
Right. All right. Well, right now we're going to give you the opportunity to tell all of our listeners where they can find you, how they can get in contact with you, why or what.
Well, I got one thing to say. I got one thing to say before Scott starts all that.
What?
Got a question for you.
Oh no, here it comes.
What the heck are highway sweatpants?
I love it.
I had to throw that in there before the show's over.
Highway sweatpants.
Listen, I'm gonna tell you what. This is so awesome. The highway sweatpants are those most comfortable sweatpants that you wear when you're going on those long road trips or when you're going to go on that long plane trip, so that way you're just in your most comfortable state. They're broken, they're wore out. They may have a hole or two in them, but they are the highway sweatpants, buddy. I'm going to tell you right now.
Oh, man. She'd been reading all those, yeah.
Well, Deliz, I can compensate because you are 40% deaf. So, yeah, I have to repeat a lot of things I say. So I totally get it.
And the things
and you know what? My hearing, from what I've been told, is just fine. But she has a very soft voice and a very quiet speaker. And if you look at my hashtags, I have one of those in there that says the silent talker, which is so accurate. But it makes for some great material, and I've been putting that stuff back for a long time now. And one day I was like, hey, you know what? You just need to share this with the world because everybody loves it. Everybody will love it. We laugh about it all the time, and so now it's great to be able to share it with everybody else, and everyone seems to love it too. So to find out what we're talking about, you're going to have to follow me on Instagram at PorterTWC or on Facebook at PorterTWC or TWC Porter and on Twitter at PorterTWC. So that makes it pretty simple. If you go in there and type PorterTWC or TWC Porter, you're going to find me.
Oh, yeah. And also events. Let our listeners know what events that you're going to be attending so they can possibly get tickets and come on out and see you.
The great fun stuff of where I'm going to be here over the next going into this next year. I'm still putting a bunch of stuff on the schedule, but we have I'm going to be in Hawaii, in Honolulu, Hawaii, the weekend of January the 19th. I'll be there doing some investigating and hanging out with several friends there where Stephanie Burke from Kindred Spirits, who will be also be doing psychic readings, will be there as well as Robert Lopaka from the local Haunted Hawaii History. I can't think of the name of the group right now that he's with, but we'll be there, and that's going to be an amazing time. Can't wait to get over there with Lopaka and check out Hawaii. February 23rd, I'm going to be in Long Beach, California at the Queen Mary. You can get those tickets at Center Stage Events. Come out and see myself and Doogie there. May 10th, to be headed out on the Wicked Waters cruise, where we're going to Bermuda to investigate a shipwreck and other aspects of Bermuda, and even look for a UFO or two while we're out at sea from the upper decks of the Norwegian ship we will be on. You can get your tickets for that at wickedwaterscruise.com. And then October 11th, that is on the agenda so far for next year, Little Traverse Bay Parafest. That's October 11th through 12th. Be up there in Michigan hanging out. And keep an eye out for the announcement of the Gettysburg Battlefield Bash as well, and many, many more to be added as we get the ink on the paper.
Who's going to be joining you at the Bash?
Let's see, at the Bash, I know so far that Stephanie will be there. I'm not sure who else is coming. I know I've talked to Doogie about it, but nothing's in stone yet, so we'll just have to wait and see. But there'll be a huge lineup there, as it is every year, and it's an amazing event. I mean, just everybody's so cool, and just to hang out with and have a good time.
Oh yeah, it's also for a great purpose. It's for the Wounded Warrior Project for Pennsylvania.
Yes, it is. Now, something else that I'm doing right now that I wanted to mention real quick before we go off the air is that I've also got a GoFundMe set up with my friends Candace and Stephanie, where we are collecting donations for the holiday season, where we're going to try to help some folks out. So Candace Dalton, Stephanie Burke, both are psychics, and they're on this with me, and we're trying to raise money. We're going to donate it to some local charities to help people have a great holiday season, maybe get some necessities that they need. So if you go to the Spirits of Giving and donate there, that money's going to a great cause. You can find that on my Facebook page as well, or on Stephanie's or on Candace Dalton's, either one, and donate there. And what I'm going to do, we can't call it a raffle, but if you donate, there may be some items that we're going to give back to those that donate, just to kind of bolster the fact of give some money for a good cause.
Sounds like a great idea. That's awesome that you guys are actually doing that.
We feel like we've been blessed, and so we're trying to give back a little bit.
Play it forward.
That's it. Always pay it forward.
All right, Porter. Well, we enjoyed having you on the show, and we'll definitely have you back on again probably soon. It depends if you get a lot of things that start, happening.
Well, you just never know.
I know, right?
There could be a lot of things happening soon.
Yeah, we're actually in the same boat. So yeah, we're just playing the waiting game.
There you go. Well, hopefully it won't be long.
I know, right? All right. Well, we enjoy.
But with Hollywood, it's always hurry up and wait, right?
I know, right? Gosh, it's a pain in the butt. All right, man. Well, you have yourself a great evening, and we appreciate you being on the show.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it and enjoyed it, and we'll have to do it again sometime.
Oh, most definitely. All right. You have yourself a good night.
All right.
Good evening.
Thank you, man. Good night. See y'all.
All right. Bye. All right. Well, there you have it, folks. We've been here for 2 hours with Scott Porter from the Tennessee Race Chasers. We got to learn about all his experiences, his memorable experiences, also where he's going to be, events and everything. So if you missed the show, go ahead and listen to the playback. We'll probably have this up and running on the website probably within the next 25 to 30 minutes. And also do remember December 19th, 8 p.m. Central on the Phantasmic Journey podcast, we will be joined by Chris Smith, Brandon Smith, and Mike G of, yes, you got it, the Tennessee Race Chasers. December is the Tennessee Race Chaser month. Hope you all enjoyed the show and have a good night.
The Phantasmic Journey podcast is brought to you by Tascam and Amazon Studios. For more than 30 years, Tascam has developed products for every segment of the sound and music industry. From the high-end audio professional in a major post-production studio to the novice of hobbyist at home, Tascam is everywhere. They are a company committed to providing their customers audio and video solutions that enable breakthroughs by using sound in ways that are exciting as they are accessible, even recording the voices of the dead. You asked for a non-scripted paranormal TV show. You begged for a non-staged paranormal TV show. You begged and you pleaded, and we have listened. We present to you Season 1 of The Paranormal Journey into the Unknown. It was released October 31st, 2017. In this series, we show you what it's like behind the scenes and conducting a real paranormal investigation. Join Gavin Kelly, Colin Purcell, and their special guests to seek out the existence of life after death by going to numerous haunted locations such as jails, hospitals, battlefields, and museums, collecting compelling evidence by means of video, photography, and EVPs. In this season, the crew investigates the St. Albans Sanatorium, Old South Pittsburgh Hospital, Jailhouse Pizza, and the famed Monroe House. And you can watch Season 1 of The Paranormal Journey into the Unknown on Amazon.com right now. Season 2 and 3 will be coming soon.
The iPhone XR is here at T-Mobile, and there's a whole lot to love. Like taking those perfect New Year, New You portrait mode selfies you're going to share.
Nice.
It's the best way to stay connected to everyone you'll heart most in 2019. So get ready to fall in love with iPhone XR on T-Mobile, the most loved in wireless. Call 1-800-T-Mobile to learn more or visit a store today.
The all-new Toyota RAV4 asks, what if? What if your ride was refined and rugged at the same time? Introducing a car that's got style and substance to spare. The all-new RAV4 Limited, featuring a sophisticated, muscular new exterior and available options like a premium JBL audio system and panoramic roof. The all-new RAV4 Limited. Toyota, let's go places. JBL and Clarifier, registered trademarks of Harman International Industries Incorporated.